former principal, assistant superintendent, author, speaker. He's done a TED Talk that got a lot of play. I think her two best titles are teacher, principal, for sure. Probably closest to her heart. From Philadelphia, and has turned around schools that were some of the most challenging and got a lot of notoriety. So by way of introduction, I want to show you this video that Diane Sawyer made of her and her school.
Now to our latest in our Hidden America series, looking in depth at people and places often overlooked in the headlines. 6 months ago, we heard about Strawberry Mansion High School inside Philadelphia. For 5 straight years, it has been considered one of the most dangerous schools in this country. Located in a neighborhood where 40% of the families live in poverty, the city's highest number of homicides and assaults. So we wanted to know, who are the 435 students trying to get an education there? The kind of education so many of us take for granted. So 6 months ago, we took our cameras into Strawberry Mansion to look at their day when that school bell rings and the security guards offer a prayer of protection. It is morning at Strawberry Mansion High School.
We must save the children.
So many kids coming to learn, and others on a haircut. This school year, there have been 49 serious incidents like the ones we filmed. On one day, boys in a rough fist fight. On another day, girls attacking each other, and that's the principal caught in the middle. Incidents include attacking teachers, setting fires.
Somebody thought it was cute to start it on fire. Safety is not a joke.
Principal Linda Wayman was an assistant superintendent in the district before coming to Strawberry Mansion this year.
I could not find a principal who was suitable to handle this school. So therefore, I said to myself, because I love these students dearly, and I knew the community, I will just volunteer to be the principal.
In this school, security guards watch for razor blades and tinfoil, knives, and Vaseline on faces used to make you slippery during a fight. Security cameras everywhere.
And
how many cameras?
94.
94?
94 cameras, yes, and we need more.
Trying to protect kids like a small, quiet 9th grader named Malaysia.
To me, it's important to get grades because I want to get a scholarship.
Malaysia says she just wants to make her dad proud. But one day after school, Malaysia is punched in the face by another girl.
Get busted up pretty good.
I mean, it's like a little, it's sore still.
She tells me she's bullied a lot. You scared?
Of fighting?
Sometimes of coming to school.
Yeah, because I'm little.
Little like Razak.
How do you protect yourself at school?
Well, I use my words. I don't try to be big. I don't try to be anything. I just be myself.
He's in the 9th grade and tries to show up at school every day, even though he shoulders a lot of responsibility at home for his mother and sisters. Potatoes cook on the stove near his bed. His clothes are in those plastic bags. His pride, the junior military uniform he carefully lays out on the chair. What are your favorite subjects?
Chemistry.
Yeah?
I like learning about the atoms and the periodic table.
Back at Strawberry Mansion, it's time for lunch, just before noon.
This is the most scariest part of the day for me. I get petrified because I know that if they outnumber me, I don't know if I have enough manpower to bring them back.
And as we watch, another fight breaks out. One girl had spit on the other. And Wayman rushes to break it up.
Oh, take her out, take her out.
She quickly restores order.
I'm down.
My leg, my knee.
Take a deep breath, okay? Calm down, take a deep breath.
By the way, during the mayhem, one of the students steps in to protect me.
We don't want nobody here, Diane. Don't let back up.
Today's a new day.
Like other kids around this country, students at Strawberry Mansion want a music program, but they have no teacher, so they try to do it themselves.
I smile.
And when it comes time for Parent-Teacher Conference Day,
Mr. Quigley, I'm just curious, how many parents have you had come in the last 2 days?
This is the first parent that I saw so far.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
out of his 70 students, only one parent shows up. It's Malaysia's dad. He knows that the bullying and chaos at the school distract her, but her grades are slipping, and he pleads with her to remember her future.
Look at the mistakes that I made with my life. I don't want the same thing for you.
He works in construction and says he just wants her to have more.
I gotta make money with my hands. Why don't you make it with your brain? You understand?
By spring, Principal Wayman has reduced serious incidents at the school by half, and she has doubled the number of seniors accepted into college. But some of those seniors tell her they do not have the few $100s for a deposit fee to secure a spot. For a moment, the tough, determined principal is in tears. In the auditorium, a school police officer plays "Praise Him," a hymn of hope. The year almost over. Another day ends at Strawberry Mansion. The bell about to ring.
I want you to be careful going home today, young people. And you all have to remember that education is the only way. It is your only ticket. And remember, if nobody told you they loved you today, you remember I do. I look forward to seeing you in school on time on Monday. Have a great day when the bell sounds. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I am so delighted to be here with you this morning. Good morning, Gear Up. And thank you, Gear Up, for what you do every day. Thank you. Thank you, Gear Up, for what you do every single day. I am so happy to be here. I am here, of course, to be involved with the first day of your capacity building workshop titled Excel. Be outstanding, be skillful, be proficient, be awesome, just be you. But before I get started, I would like to thank Mr. Sadhu and the National Council for Community and Education Partnership for the opportunity to be here with you to help you answer one essential question. Why you? Before I can begin to answer that question of why you, I first have to tell you a little story about why me. Every morning, when I was the principal of Strawberry Mansion High School, I would hold morning announcements, or I would make morning announcements. The first bell would ring, signaling that it was time for me to get ready to make that morning announcement. Now, these were not ordinary morning announcements. My staff would say they were mini sermons. Every morning, when that first bell would ring, for some reason, I would be nowhere near my office in time to make that announcement. When the first bell would ring, that signaled that I had 3 minutes to get to that main office to make that announcement. Now, and of course, usually I was nowhere near the office. So I would have to quickly run, usually from the 5th floor, all the way to the 1st floor to prepare myself to make this announcement. I would walk into my office, I would be completely out of breath, I would fall in my chair, and I would hit page on my phone, signaling that it was time to make my announcement. I would clear my throat, and I would scream over the PA system, and it would go something like this. Good morning. Good morning, Strawberry Mansion High School students and staff. Good morning. And while I am saying that very enthusiastic opening, I have no idea what I'm going to say next. I would sit in my chair, and I would close my eyes, and I would think about what in the world could I say to my students to make them want to be bothered with school. And images would appear in my head. Images like this. Like this. Like this. And like this. Those images would prompt me to open my mouth and talk for 15 minutes about the transformational power of education. I would say whatever came to my mind that would help me convince my students to please stay in school and beg my staff to do the very best that they could in order for our kids to be successful. I would repeat myself over and over and over again. Please, please, please tell anybody you know to please just come back to school. Education could truly change your life. Those images were familiar to me. I grew up in that community. Those images were powerful to me. Those images would guide every major decision that I did in my life, professionally and personally. Those images prompted me to make one life-altering decision. And that's why now I'm given the opportunity to talk about why me. Let me take you back in time briefly before I arrived at Strawberry Mansion High School. I will never forget the day the decision was made to merge 3 neighborhood high schools. 2 high schools would close their doors for good, and all 3 would merge into Strawberry Mansion High School. I was assistant superintendent for high schools. I had 52 leaders under my charge with 61,000 children I was responsible for. It was my job as assistant superintendent to find the next principal for Strawberry Mansion High School. The 2 principals that were coming from the 2 closed schools were not interested in the position. So I did a national search trying to find the right principal for Strawberry Mansion High School. After 2 national searches, it yielded 0 candidates. Nobody wanted the job to lead Strawberry Mansion High School. I worried all the time. I could never sleep at night thinking about who would take care of the teachers and the staff and the kids once we merged these 3 schools. With that heavily on my mind, I was walking into, now let me back up on my story first. I'll go off my story. After the national search, I looked at 52 of my principals, and I decided which of these principals would I move out of their current school to move to Strawberry Mansion High School. One person came to mind. I brought her into my office, sat her down, and I said, I'm sorry, but I will have to move you out of your school and send you to Strawberry Mansion High School. She stared at me with a long stare, and she lifted up her shirt. And I said, well, what's that? She said, it's a heart monitor. She said, Ms. Wayman, I'll go, but it just may kill me. I was right back to where I started, trying to find a school leader for Strawberry Mansion High School. One day, with this problem heavy, so heavy on my mind, I was walking into the school district building, and I heard this voice. And this voice said, you go. You go to Strawberry Mansion High School. The voice was so very clear that it stopped me in my tracks, and I asked a grammatically incorrect question. I said, me go, right in the middle of the hallway. And once again, the voice said, you go. At that very moment, I realized why I could not find a principal for Strawberry Mansion High School. I was the person that I was looking for. I was the person that I was searching for. I was the leader of those 52 principals and them 61,000 children. They were my responsibility to educate and keep safe. So I had no other choice but to step down. I live by the motto, if you're going to lead, lead. Not just by your title, but by your actions. If you're going to lead, lead. Those images just would not go away. But I started to see different images in my head before going into Strawberry Mansion. I saw images of a school that would educate children like the rest of the world. I imagined a school where teachers taught to the best of their abilities. I thought of a massive amount of partnerships who could help us make this school a real school. I believed in the possibilities of what could happen for Strawberry Mansion. I knew all I had to do was to do my very best. Before entering Strawberry Mansion High School, I was constantly reminded of the danger. I called in the Department of Justice. We had a conversation about all of the violence in the neighborhood, all the murders, all the rapes, all of the danger that I was getting ready to take on. I would sit and I would read the data of how only 3% of the kids were proficient in math and only 6% in reading. I would spend a lot of days crying about how in the world could I possibly educate so many children, and how could I possibly keep them safe after they had been on a persistently dangerous list for 5 consecutive years. The number of violent incidences and the dangerous incidences exceeded almost hundreds. How and what was I going to do to make it better? But I believed I could do something. I didn't know what I could do, but I could believe I could do something. So after I looked at all of the data, after I read it closely, after I heard all of the stories about how I would not be able to keep anybody safe, how I would have to know that it was dangerous going in there, how I knew that they could not protect me in there, I still believed, and I thought about my second motto that I live by. So what? Now what? So what? It was dangerous. So what? It was underperforming. So what? The resignations were through the roof. So what? Nobody wanted to come. So what? So what? So what? So what? So what? Now what? Now what are you going to do to make it all better? Now, every leader knows that they cannot do anything alone. Every good leader knows that. So I truly believed I could make a difference. But I needed me an army to believe also. So every day, I would think about how I would make my mission a shared mission. How would I get everybody on the same page to be thinking, so what, now what, just like myself? So I met with my team over and over and over and over and over and over, trying desperately to think of a plan that would help get Strawberry Mansion off the persistently dangerous list, how to come up with a plan to educate the students proficiently. I desperately tried to understand what I could do differently so that 4 other principals before me could not do. I was the 4th principal in 4 years. What could I do differently? What could my team do differently? Those images of incarceration, of death, of poverty stayed with me every single day and motivated me to always do whatever I can to get as many kids out of poverty as I could. It was my life's mission because somebody did it for me. So what now what? Along with my army of team, my leadership team, we tried to figure out what to do next. But then something happened. We went into Strawberry Mansion High School. And we held our first nonviolence assembly. Now, I really wasn't keen on nonviolent assembly programs for a violent school at the time because I'm like, well, I don't know if this is going to work. But I really needed the partnership with the Department of Justice. And they were willing to help me. So I didn't really want to ostracize anyone. And so I said, okay, come on in and hold your nonviolence assembly. They came in, they showed a film. And the film was about the Columbine school shooting. I was horrified. I said, oh my God, why in the world would they show something like that? Because I don't know where they got this film from, but it was a true reenactment of the Columbine school shooting. So I'm sitting there along with my staff, and we're absolutely horrified and scared to death. I thought about ending the program. I really did. I went over, I thought about ending it. Then I said, oh no, that might not be a good thing. Let them finish. It might be something different that I don't know about. But why my concern grew even more when I heard this outburst of laughter. An outburst of laughter and kids having sidebar conversations. And I was shocked. And I walked over to the presenters and we looked at each other in horror to say, but why are all the kids laughing at something so horrific? Why are they laughing? I was in tears and they were laughing. After the program was over, I was so upset about what I had witnessed. I called a round table conversation with some of the students. And I said, look, you got to come on in here. You got to talk to me about why you're laughing at something so horrific. And one of the girls, in a sweet voice, she said, Miss Wayman, do you really think that was something? And before I could answer, she said, we see that every night on our block. That's nothing compared to what we see. Right then and there, I understood. I understood why there was so much violence. I understood why the school was persistently dangerous for years. I understood why there were no academic learning going on in this building, because the kids were in a deep state of despair. They were so traumatized by their own lives, they could not even feel for others. Right then and there, I knew the only way to turn this school around was to love those children for who they were. It was the only way. Excuse me. They had tried everything else. Everything else was tried. But people would say to me, excuse me, how could you love children like that? Look at them. And I will remind people, what you saw in that video on how those children behaved was not the fault of the children. It was not their doing. They could not do that. They did what they were allowed to do. So I loved those children the way they were supposed to be loved. I took them the way they were with their challenges. I showed them experiences they had never seen before. I challenged them to come to school every day and do their work. And of course, I rewarded them, I punished them, I celebrated them, and all through it all, they knew I cared about them. They knew I loved them with every ounce of my soul. Why? Because they could see it. They could see that I loved them. Everything they asked me to do for them, I did for them. And everything I asked them to do for me, they did for me. Again, love conquers all. And every day, at the end of my announcements, I tied all that love, all those experiences in, and I told them, you remember, if nobody told you they loved you today, you remember I do, and I always will. So that answers my why me question. Why me? Because I was the leader. It was my mission. God made it my assignment. I believed. I cared. I was willing. I loved them with every ounce of my soul. And there was nobody else. That's why it was me. Now that brings me to my essential question of the day. Why you? Why you? Why you? For the same reasons. When you close your eyes and you sit in a quiet space, you see those same images. When your kids tell you those stories, you know the stories I'm talking about. Them horror stories of how they live from day to day. You see those images. You feel their pain. You want so desperately to make life better for them. That's why it's you. It's you because you care. It's you because you're willing. It's you because you believe. It's you because you have hope for a better future for them. It's you because you love them. It's you because you sacrifice for them every single day. You lead with authority for them. And above all, it may only be you. Think about that. It may only be you, just like it was only me. Gear up, family. Please, please approach your work every single day as if it's only you. Because for many of your children, it is only you. You're the only one that believes in a bright future for them. You're the only one that will hope for them. You're the only one that loves them. On my last day at work at Strawberry Mansion, I'll get to that in a moment, there are so many kids who told me, you're the only person that ever loved me. For your students, it's the same way. You're the only person that care. You might be the only person that motivate them. You may be the only person that will stand in their defense. You may be the only person that will listen to them carefully and completely, without judgment. It may be only you. Please approach your work every day. Go in there with this sense of pride and reason on why you must excel. You cannot fail. You have 635,000 children dependent on you not to fail. Lead them, love them, take care of them, because it may be only you. Those images, let them images guide you. And also remember, Gear Up family, if each one of you look at it as if it's only you, it all becomes a shared mission. And you'll find yourself in this thing together. I become we become us, and together we can save from generations of children, 635 and counting. And Gear Up family, one day, one of you, somebody in here, will be chosen to tell the rest of Gear Up's story. The same way that I go around the country to tell the story of my students. The rest of Gear Up's story. Let me remind you of something. In July of 2016, Gear Up held a youth leadership retreat. Some of you probably will remember it. It's called Turnaround. That's what it was called. All of your kids sat in the audience, still in their chairs. And the facilitator of this group told them a story. And after he told their story, he asked them a series of questions. He said, stand up if you've ever lived in poverty. Some of your kids stood up. Stand up if you've ever been arrested. Some of your kids stood up. Stand up if you ever felt hopeless. More of your kids stood up. Stand up if you've ever been in deep pain. And more of your kids stood up. And before the facilitator knew it, everyone had stood up and they were facing the back wall like this. And then the facilitator said, if you are more than your past story and you want to tell the rest of your story, just turn around. And every last one of your children turned around. Every last one of them had a deep story to tell of how you helped save their life. There were beautiful stories of how you listened and you cared and you talked to them, and all of the time they decided to turn around. So my question for you today is, who is going to tell the rest of Gear Up's story? Who's going to be the person? Who's going to be the person that someday go around and talk about how you were the chosen storyteller? How the storyteller one day, this storyteller one day will talk about how you all banded together and got 100% of your kids out of poverty. This chosen storyteller will tell how 100% of your Gear Up students went on to college and excelled and made this world a better place. The storyteller will tell the story of how you reached down and took all of the kids outside of the Gear Up family and brought them into the Gear Up family. This chosen storyteller will talk about how you shattered every statistic, every data in all positive ways. This storyteller will tell the story of how you excelled, how you listened, how you learned, and how you cared deeply. This chosen storyteller will talk about how you just simply loved all of your children. My question to you today is, who's going to be the storyteller? Think about it. Who's going to be the storyteller? Now, if it was up to me, I believe it's going to be all of you. All of you will be able to go off and tell the story about Gear Up and about your work and about your children. Your children have fascinating stories to tell, and you will have the story to tell about Gear Up. So Gear Up family, please continue to focus on excelling, being exceptionally good, shining, being outstanding, being talented, reigning over everything that you do. So if you're successful, your kids will also be successful. Like to do, I also have a letter I would like to read to you from one of my students. And I received this letter on March 3rd, 2017, on my very last day at work, in the middle of the most beautiful send-off that you could ever see. I might get a little teared up now. My kids stood on that stage and talked about how I changed their life. How it wasn't for me, the school would have never been a school. But let me read you her words. Let me get my voice together. The letter simply reads, "Thank you, Mrs. Wayman, for all that you have done. In a school full of darkness, you have been our sun. Finding someone like you is impossible because you're only one. You came and rebuilt us. Now your job is done. We wish you good luck on your adventure. In our hallways, you'll hear us whisper about how much we miss her. You were the school's mother, best friend, and sister. What would we be without you? You might feel it, but you've already missed you. You said this every day. Remember, if nobody told you they loved you today, remember I do. And if we don't say it back to you, please know that we meant to. If the students you house in a place called home could tell you how they never felt alone, I know they would. They would scream out loud how much they love you if they could. And if they won't, just know I would. I love you, Miss Wayman. I am really going to miss you. Thank you for keeping me on track and molding me into the young woman that I have become." Those letters, those feelings, those comments is something that stays with you the rest of your life. Those kids are dependent on you. They need you. Do your work the best that you can. Excel in your job. Walk in every day with a sense of confidence. If anybody gets in your way, you tell them that you're here to save children. If anybody stops you, blocks you, moves you in the wrong direction, you tell them you're here to save children. Think about those images. Remember those images. Let them guide you. The good images, the bad images. Let you lead you on your path. And let me say this to you also. And I'm getting ready to close. To my Gear Up family. Now you're my family because I already cried in front of you. So now you're my family. To my Gear Up family, for what you do every single day. For wanting to excel every day that you go to work. For wanting to save children that most of this world has forgotten. For wanting to be a leader in this new generation. To end generational poverty one kid at a time. To go to work with a sense of purpose when so many people sometimes don't say thank you. Well, today, Gear Up family, I'm here to say thank you. And I'm here to tell you one more thing. If nobody ever told you they loved you today, you remember I do, and I always will. You keep up the good work, Gear Up family. You do your thing. You save those kids' lives. They absolutely love you, Gear Up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for what you do every day. Thank you.
Everybody, have a great morning, and I just want to tell Linda, on behalf of this room, we love you too.
Thank you.
Have a great morning.
Thank you.